Hey, everybody. Welcome out to another episode of Windshield Time at Mountainland Supply. I am Joey. I'm joined by Spencer Shorts, as always.
Yeah, that's me.
6 more words.
I have mushrooms in my mouth.
Wow. That's impressive.
Yeah.
He's dipping mushrooms, which is good. It's microdosing.
Yeah.
And we're joined by Brandon. What's your middle name, Rowley?
Keith.
Brandon Keith Rowley. BKR.
BKR.
That's pretty strong.
Very.
Is that a family name?
My dad's name.
Really?
Well, actually, he's Alan Keith, and I have an oldest brother named Alan Shane, and he has a son named Alan Luke, and it's really weird. I don't know why you would call someone by their middle name.
I have a nephew whose name is Hakan, Hakan, like Hakan, which is, it's Nordic, right? But his middle name is Cade, so he goes by Cade. I think you've met him.
That makes
before.
a little more sense, yeah.
He worked down in the Cedar City store for a while. Yeah. He now lives in South Carolina.
Why not?
I don't know why he wouldn't. Although I was going to say that it's warm out there, but they got snow out there this last winter. They got that northeastern came
First
over there.
time ever.
Mm-hmm. So, Brandon, you are the sales manager over irrigation, which encompasses, it also picks up power equipment. So you have agricultural irrigation, turf irrigation, power equipment. What else am I missing?
Truck outfitters.
Truck outfitters and the service.
Ag service.
Yeah.
Tool and safety now.
Tool and safety.
And just recently, Mike Mark.
Oh, yeah. Mike Mark.
Mark.
Go. Yeah. And we had Mike Mark on the podcast. Did you see that?
I did.
Okay. So I don't need to explain to you what he does.
No, I know. Well, I don't know what he does, but I know
what he's supposed to
what
do.
his title is, yeah.
Yeah. So that encompasses a lot of stuff, which means you travel a lot.
My truck is my office. That's what I tell people.
Yeah, you got 4 wheels on it. And you cover the entire footprint for the company, right?
Nothing really in Denver, nothing in Phoenix, Kansas, Idaho, Utah.
Because we haven't done any verticals over there yet.
Wyoming.
That you cover. Okay.
Right. Not yet.
Yet
We're
is
working.
the operative word, right? So along with covering all those verticals, you've been here for what, like maybe 14 years?
I think I'm in my 17th year.
17 years? And you started at the Roosevelt store. Were you in sales or did you come over for a different role?
So I worked at a competitor. I ran their store as a manager in Roosevelt for several years, and then didn't like the way things were going. Left my keys on the desk one day and walked out.
Said Seacrest out.
Matt Scott called me probably a month later, and I met him at the store. He hired me as a outside salesman for ag.
So I didn't know that. You quit and didn't have a backup plan.
It might have been a month and a half. My wife is very trusting.
Yeah, she is, obviously, being your wife. So what did you do in the interim? Just hung out?
No. Well, I did a little hanging out, yeah. I remember we have horses, and I would take my kids to school on the horse and drop them off and bring and then
that's
come
freaking
home.
awesome.
It was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
No, I actually interviewed. I had a good friend that worked for IFA. He was in their agronomy center, and I interviewed with them probably 3 or 4 times. I interviewed with their VPs, and it just never went anywhere. They did not want to grow. They did not want to expand. And
I'd imagine that'd be hard with their model, being a co-op.
Pretty hard.
Yeah.
I have some good friends that work there.
Yeah.
And, there's no growth.
I actually get dividends from
there you
ownership
go.
at IFA. Yeah. So you were there, you were like unemployed for a month and a half.
Yep.
And then Matt Scott called you.
Yep.
That is awesome. I didn't know that. I thought you left and came right here.
No.
See, I learned something new today. Nice.
Yeah.
That's nice. So you started in the sales vertical for agricultural sales.
Yep.
And you were outside sales for how many years?
Ooh.
4?
So probably 3 or 4 years as just outside sales. And then Matt moved to a branch manager position, and that manager spot opened up, sales manager. So I took that, and I did both for several years. I did the sales and the management. Which was hard.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, I did it for quite a few years. till I hired a sales guy and started weaning me off.
Yeah,
and
which is hard,
It's very hard.
especially when farmers are involved. Because I'm sure they still call you today, even though you've been out of that role for a long time.
Yeah, and I still go. Glendon Lamb's the salesman out there that I hired. He's awesome. He's a farmer. He's got pivots. He knows what he's doing. But yeah, they still call. I go with him on jobs.
Lightning Springs Ranch.
There you go.
Follow him on Instagram.
You better follow that if you want to watch some bucking horses.
They really are fun.
One of those is my wife's horse.
Really?
That she sold Glendon's son. Yeah.
Really?
The one that bucks a lot.
So I love watching their stuff.
Palomino.
They do a good job with their content. They really do.
Oh, it's fun.
Yeah, I like them. So then when you transitioned into like full management, that was how long ago?
That was probably under you when you were the.
Like 10 years, 10 or 11 years?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, about that, yeah. And then it just kind of grew from there. Your responsibilities grew from there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Nobody knew what I did, and so it was
keep
easy to
dumping
say
stuff
he's
on you.
doing great. Yeah.
He's doing great. You know, Brandon, he probably has some bandwidth. Let's just keep dumping it on him.
Yeah, sure.
I've told you what my grandpa said, right? About a busy man.
Oh,
If you want anything done, just give it to a busy man. He'll get it done. Which is true.
it's true.
Because busy people learn how to, create a system and
Manage
figure
their
it out.
time.
Yep, they just figure it out. And that has been you, because you do get a lot dumped on you, as is evident by your current workload.
Yeah,
So thanks
all
for
right.
doing it. And then you have how many managers that work under you now?
So I had 4 turf guys, Larry in Kansas, Jeff Stoddard and David Chandler, and then I had Cody Kemp in Idaho.
that's
but
right.
We just made some changes there.
Right.
So I'll have those 3. Wes Schaefer over ag, Spencer.
Yeah, over tools and safety.
Yeah, that one's, we're still working through that one.
Yeah.
But yeah. And then Mike Mark directly, so he's not a sales manager. And then truck outfitters and power equipment are kind of the unique.
Yeah, they're kind of unicorns.
There's
dual role people
They
there.
kind of have a general manager set up rather than a sales manager on both sides. So I work with Martin Matthews and Brian Nuttall.
Yeah.
And they're both awesome.
They are. They're amazing. And they juggle a lot, those 2 guys.
Yeah, it works.
The cool thing about both those guys is they have unique capabilities in both disciplines, operations and in sales.
Right.
They're both really good at both things, which is the reason why they're able to do both things.
Yep, they're good.
And doing pretty well. So being that you've been here so long, you've been with the company prior to when we've actually had like published core values.
Oh, yeah.
And
We
then
had no values back then.
0. Still, I mean, some would argue that we still don't have many values, but we have 6 that we try to do, right? And we've been doing a little bit of a revamp on them and kind of going through and getting other people's opinions on what the core values are or what they mean to different people. And I talked to you earlier today and asked you about ownership. And so people are going to get the raw opinion of what ownership means to you.
Thought about this a lot, all 5 minutes.
Yeah, maybe 6 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what does ownership mean to you? Like when you hear it as it pertains to Mountainland, what do you think of?
I think I would even go down to not just to Mountainland in general, but even a job. It's you take it. It's yours. There's these things called excuses that everybody in the world does.
Mm-hmm.
A guy that has ownership doesn't give excuses.
Yeah.
Even if it's a legitimate one.
You have reasons, not excuses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would say you take it, you take the ownership, you take the accountability, and you don't pass it off.
Yeah. And I've talked about this before. Originally, it was accountability as a core value.
Mm-hmm.
And I think ownership encompasses it better because it's more like I choose to own it instead of like you will be held accountable for something.
Yeah.
And I think that's what it should have been all along. At Mountainland, people just choose to own it. Like you were saying, they choose to take that. Like, no, I got that. Let me do it.
Yeah, accountability is like a checkbox.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
did you do it? Yes.
Oh, yeah, I was
did it.
accountable for that. Check. Next. But ownership is almost like a mentality. Like that's what I do every day, right? And I look at some of like Wes is a prime example. I think
Of
that's
what?
of a lot of things. the doctor, good doctor, Wes Schaefer, he's a guy who he wants to own it. Like he wants to just do. He wants to have the accountability and everything it comes with. Like he doesn't mind taking the blame if something goes wrong.
Oh yeah.
You know, he just takes it in stride and says, "Oh yeah, I'll learn from that one.
I blame him all the time.
Yeah, but he learns from it and he'll fix it and he'll do it better the next time. But I think that's the other portion of ownership that's kind of not unique, but it's important that we have at Mountainland. You're allowed to screw up because we all do.
A lot.
Especially in a growing company that kind of does, out of the box things from time to time. You have to have that license to screw up every once in a while. And there's things that are put in place, there's bumper pads, for lack of a better term, to keep us from not completely falling off the rails. But to have that license to live a little bit on that edge, I think that helps with ownership.
Yeah, there's another side to ownership. I'd call it autonomy.
Yeah.
You have to have that on the upside to have ownership.
Yeah, totally.
If somebody delegates something to you and then you do it and then they redo it or they don't fully give it to you, you're not ever going to have ownership.
No.
And we do pretty good at that at Mountainland as far as giving autonomy, letting people do good or bad.
Yeah. So that's something that's hard when you're transitioning out of sales and into a management role, is handing off that autonomy.
Oh boy.
How did you kind of do that? How did you have a secret for it? What made it easier, I guess?
I don't know if anything made it easier. I think I just had to cold turkey it. I talked about Glendon, somebody that I trusted. Mm-hmm. And I had a frank conversation with him and said, hey, when guys call me, I'm just going to forward them to you. Please take care of them. So my phone would ring, and I would feel like I was ignoring a good customer, a friend, and I would just instantly send a message and say, could you call this guy?
Yeah.
And we've done it enough times that I trust he does it.
Yeah.
He takes care of them. Usually he sends me something back that says, don't worry about it. They just needed this. Or if they do need me, he would let me know.
Yeah.
So probably one of the hardest things I've done, though, is to pass that off.
So hard, because you, as a salesperson, so much of that is I own that whole process. Yeah. So if something gets screwed up, at least I knew that I did it. It was on me. And then as you're handing that off, number one, you do feel the guilt because those customers are calling you for a reason. They wanted Brandon,
Yeah.
And then you're handing that off to somebody else. But if that person earns your trust, like Glendon has with you, and I'm sure Wes has done the same thing, and a bunch of other guys have done that for you, that makes it easier. Once you trust and then you verify, then you can trust even more and even more and even more.
Right. Yeah, I had, you probably remember Grant Hansen.
Oh, yeah, legend.
So Grant didn't work for us. He worked for the competitor, and he was known throughout the industry, the pivot market, and he had developed relationships. So he comes over to us, and he's selling into my area.
Yeah.
Talk about ownership.
Yeah.
And I had to take his customers and convince them that they didn't need to call Grant anymore. And that was probably as hard as the other.
That's tough.
But it was kind of cool because it evolved to when I moved out of it, I had the same customers. They were like, I just want to talk to you. I don't want the new guy. So
it's funny. When I took over my sales route from Brian Haskell, and he told me, he's like, and this was actually pretty liberating to me. He's like, Joey, you're going to find some people who are just Brian guys. They just want Brian, like the same way with you. They just want a Brandon. They'll put up with you, though, and they'll do what you ask them to, and they'll call you, and you'll develop a decent relationship with them. But some guys you'll just never have as deep a relationship with. But some guys you'll have a deeper relationship with, and you're going to click with people. And that was very freeing to me to know that I didn't need to be everything to everybody, that, I was okay, that, Joey was enough. Because the people who really appreciated me, they gravitated to me. And those who didn't. And no matter what, my business was going to be just fine. My family was going to be just fine because my relationships were strong enough.
Yeah, amazing how that works.
It is weird. It's awesome, actually. And that's kind of a lesson for life, to be okay with being yourself. That's kind of a crash course when you go through sales. It's like, well, you better be okay with yourself, because yourself is going to get told no a lot.
Yeah.
You're going to have to be okay with
job.
it. Yeah. But, to find out who you are and to be cool with it, I think that's a lot of people struggle their whole lives to figure that out, and I think sales kind of get you there really quickly.
It's fun to watch the new guys take over. The old guy moves up and somebody fills his shoes. It's fun to watch that happen.
Yeah, it is.
And to be like, this is going to be hard. These customers are not going to switch. And
not quickly.
Sometimes they like it better.
Yeah, and they just click with that person,
Yep.
So since you've been around, as long as I have, you saw a warehouse position or a driver position prior to being an official ESOP and having the, quote unquote ownership. Have you seen a change since we became an ESOP?
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, there's always those that are here just for the current job,
yeah,
and they're not long term. But
yeah,
I think the employees that have been here and are looking at this as a career, I hear more guys say this is a career for me.
Yeah.
And for sure.
Yeah.
They look at it different.
I think I think that's inherent with ESOPs. I mean, you hear that all the time, like, our retention rate is better than, a standard privately held company or a publicly held company. But there's a reason for it. When somebody feels like they're working for something that will benefit them in the end, they're going to work a little bit harder or take a little bit more care or whatever it may be, Yeah,
and there's different ESOPs out there.
Yeah.
I'm on the dealer council with Valley, and so
Yeah.
I get to rub shoulders with a lot of the Valley dealers around the country. And there's a couple of them that are ESOPs,
Mm-hmm.
and there's good ESOPs and bad ESOPs, but
Yeah.
some of them are very good. And the guys that are there have been there for 20, 30 years,
Yeah.
and they love it.
Yeah.
They're bought in.
Yeah.
Ownership.
It is. I mean, that's what it boils down to. And, there's a lot of people like at the company that think that maybe comes with time, but I think a lot of people are doing it like day one. They just own where they're at, and then it grows from there, and you can tell the people when you first hire them, it's like, yeah, that guy gets it or that girl gets it.
Yeah, culture.
Yeah, exactly. And I think we're getting better and better in hiring to our culture. Number one, I think we get referrals from our current, employee owners, and so that helps.
Right.
It just feels like we get just better quality people nowadays, though.
Well, we weed them out
Yeah.
quicker when they do
That's true.
come.
That's true. Yeah, and the culture does. Like, we don't even have to do it. The culture
Yeah.
just kind of regurgitates them. It's like, you're not going to like it here, which is good. I mean,
okay.
that's a good thing. And we're not going to be everything to everybody. The same way a person's not going to be everything to everybody, a company can't be that way either. And so maybe we just don't fit other people. There's a certain type of person that wants to work here and wants to be an owner, and that's okay. That's going to be a smaller group of people, and we're okay with that.
We're okay with that. I think they're going to be okay with that.
Absolutely.
Maybe not at first.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
yeah.
usually,
Maybe not at first, but
usually after they're not here anymore.
well, you've seen that though. Like you've had to let somebody go, and then
Absolutely.
they come back later, and they're like, you know what? Thank you for doing that.
That was something that worked out better for both.
Yeah. In fact, I had a vendor come in just last week and said, "Hey, remember when you let me go? That changed my life, and I want to talk to you about it." I'm like, "Ugh,
It's awesome.
Like for the good." Oh yeah, it was good for me, But I think there's probably more of those stories out there that just haven't been told.
Yeah. It's a hard conversation, but
It is,
it works out.
but it's worth having. So if you could say one thing to somebody who just started at Mountainland about, you could do this one thing and it'll help you stay on track for the rest of your career or give you a career at Mountainland, what would that be?
Probably do what you say you're going to do. Like, that's probably the key. Do what you say you're going to do,
Yeah.
and you'll be successful.
Well, how many times, if you overpromise and underdeliver with a customer, you get one chance at doing that.
Yeah.
But if you do what you say and say what you're going to do, man, they'll keep them. They'll forgive some mistakes.
Yeah. And if you're not going to do it,
Then don't say you're going to do
call them and tell them you can't do it
it. Yeah.
anymore.
And do it quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah, because nothing is worse than a surprise when it ends up being negative.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
I like that. Okay, thanks for being on, bud. Thanks for talking ownership.
Thanks for grabbing me.
Thanks for doing it with 3 minutes advance notice. You were kind with the 6 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No problem.
All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us on a little windshield time. We'll see you down the road.